Hi, this is Stephen Pearcy from Ratt, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to Brando on Appetite for Distortion.
You know where you are. I said it.
This is Appetite for Distortion.
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 231. My name is Brando. Super excited for today's episode. I feel like every week I'm just surprised about who comes on this Guns N' Roses themed bar mitzvah party of a broadcast where we look at life through Guns N' Roses colored glasses, 6 degrees of GNR bacon, and how far we keep going because there's just not a lot of Guns N' Roses new material to talk about. You know, the pinball machine, sure, Slash is doing some new collaborative work, great. But overall, what is there to talk about? But every week it seems like we're talking about it with somebody special, somebody cool. And today is no different, so I want to jump right in. Today, Stephen Pearcy from Ratt joins us. Wow. Hey, Stephen. Hello.
Brandon, Stephen Pearcy from Ratt.
Awesome. How are you, Stephen?
How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I appreciate you taking some time out today to speak with me.
Sure.
Where are you calling from, if you don't mind me?
Los Angeles.
Okay, I gotcha. I'm assuming, would you be home right now? I'm assuming not. Before, like, how are you handling it? I guess just to get right into it. I mean, it's the big elephant in the room is quarantine. Being home.
Yeah, right. Well, look, we're taking it seriously, but we don't stop functioning normally. I mean, I'm pretty much writing all the time and stuff anyway, so I'm pretty much locked in anyway, or in the studio or something. So it really hasn't had an effect other than, it's tougher to get in the studio but now there's plenty of ways to record. So there's no need to worry about that. I mean, I can do lead vocals on a track right now, laying in bed,
right.
On the laptop. It's crazy. Yeah.
I know.
And there's no shows that are thorough shows yet. I'll be announcing a solo show, and we'll get to that soon enough. But no, we're pretty much hanging in. It's had an effect, but it's our normal days are pretty much, input anyway.
Well, it's good that you don't seem too derailed. That what were the plans going into this year? Because I know how busy you are. We're obviously going to get into that. But was there anything specific that you're like, oh man, 2020, what did you do to me?
I know. Well, the band Ratt was going to go into auditions for a rhythm guitar player and try to record a song or two and welcome in the new year. But there's no time to do that. So we'll now, put that on the back burner until, everything's really back into the norm. But as far as me and my solo career, I've been working on my 6th solo record for the last year and a half, ready to go and recorded. And I'm also releasing a legacy record of songs from my career, 1977 till 2021.
Wow.
And so I've got a lot on the plate and a lot of other business things that's music oriented. So I'm good here, and we'll see what happens. Because hopefully everything will be back to normal soon.
I mean, I was going to ask, and you kind of answered it, that you've been working on this new solo record for a year and a half. If the solo record kind of came out of not being able to recruit a new member for Ratt and connect with your bandmates, but it sounds like you've just been working on it for a while, and now you have more time to work on it, I guess, since you're not also focused on Ratt.
100%. Yeah. I'm always prepared to do Ratt music, but if there's, if my partner sees no, if he's not into it, then I just switch tracks and move forward.
What's the biggest?
So right now everything's on hiatus.
Then what's the biggest difference for you writing something for Ratt than you writing something for solo for Stephen Pearcy?
Well, I have a great writing partner, Eric Ferrantino, who's been in my solo band for 15 years off and on, and we pretty much the last solo records, or the last two, Smash and View to a Thrill, were pretty much him and I, as this new record will be. So we're pretty tied into that at this moment. The difference is anything I write for myself or just write period is thought of as Ratt music, and I pretty much bring it. If I know it's really Ratt sounding and has that schematic, then I'll bring it to the only partner here left is one. So, and if there's no, interest in recording from the guy, then I just move forward and record it for me. But I do have I just released a song called All That I Want a few months back. That was supposed to be written for Ratt, and it didn't happen. We didn't get in the studio before we went on the road last summer. That's how old that song is, but it's new. It's still a new song. I just recorded it solo and put it out just so people have something to listen to until I get the solo record finished. But it's written, ready to go.
Wow.
So I pretty much, anything I write, people expect it to be Ratt, or why am I not writing Ratt music? It's like, well, I do all the time. There's nothing I can do, and it takes me away from that, that entity Ratt, so to speak. I mean, it's my voice. I mean, with my other band projects and things that I've done, people are like, whoa, that's way outside, but I want it to be. There's only so many, there's a certain schematic, like I say, with Ratt. So if the music, I don't think it suits Ratt, and then I'll definitely run with it, because I love writing and experimenting and trying different things, being real heavy and being real, just trying different things. So it's all good. At the end of the day, for me, it's all good, no matter where the songs go. It could be Ratt solo here, but I pretty much offer them to the band, my band Ratt first, obviously. And if it doesn't go down, then I'll keep them for me,
It's all about the forward progression for you, whether it's Ratt, whether it's solo, and you mentioned it before. So you've been at it. Mm-hmm. You're talking about your compilation album that's coming out.
Legacy.
1977. Is that the?
I started. Yeah, my first band, the first real band, Mickey Ratt in San Diego, which was how Ratt started pretty much. I moved us up to LA in 1980, but from 78 till 80, late 82, it was Mickey Ratt, and then Ratt in 82, 83 forward, and then take it from there.
I mean, it blows me away, and I got to be honest, because you're such a down to earth person. I think that's why people relate to your music, and you've been so successful for so long. So you're welcome. As much as I'm into the 80s metal and Ratt and Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue, my girlfriend will like them. She's more of like a Dave Matthews, kind of a indie folk kind of person. But we both like the Beatles. That's where we bonded. However, I always get kind of proud when she knows who I'm interviewing. I kind of want to test her knowledge, her rock knowledge at times. I'm like, do you know of the band Ratt? And she usually surprises me. I probably she'll probably get mad if she listens to it, because I kind of maybe sell her short with some things that she knows. But she said, "Oh, Ratt, yeah, from the Geico commercial, round and around." So I guess
from the Geico commercial.
I know. So there's a couple things to ask, because we were just talking about 1977. How long have you been doing this? And we're both 37. I don't look at it as that as an excuse because I know of Ratt, of course. How do you feel, I guess, that people are, discover? I have another friend that said the same thing. Oh, Ratt from the commercial. You know?
Wow.
So how does that make you feel?
Yeah, that's interesting.
For someone who's been doing it for so long to like, it's not like it's a 10-year-old maybe. Like, oh, I saw this. I don't know. People are still discovering you in this unique way.
Yeah, that is a really very cool thing that people are still discovering us. And like you say, through the Geico commercial. I mean, that's crazy. I tell this story of this elderly woman who walks around my block here and stuff, my neighbor, next door neighbor, and I walk my dog, so we run into each other, and she asked me one day if I did a commercial. I said, yes. And she said, you have a lot of energy. I said, no, I'm fooling you, but thank you. So even she knew, recognized, but it's great to have people still discovering us. And like you say, through Geico, there's a lot. Matter of fact, that song charted again around second, top 20.
Yeah. She started singing the song after. It wasn't just like, oh, I remember them from the commercial and it ended. She started singing round and round. So, and I'll spare you. I'm not going to sing for you.
That is great.
So it is great. And the commercial was so well received because it's funny. And while you're still creating new music and stuff, it's kind of why, and it's my segue into this podcast theme. Instead of being just another rock talk or talking just about rock and roll, I have this Guns N' Roses theme. And part of the reason why behind it is that I could talk to anybody and they'll know GNR songs. If they're just like, they'll know Sweet Child of Mine, they'll know Paradise City. Round and Round is becoming like that as well. So I think it's just a nice place for everybody to meet on these bands. So I kind of just go through that common theme. So as I continue to go through that theme, and I think some people forget about how long you've been doing it.
I forget sometimes too. Actually, I put a picture out of me. I'm going to end up putting out this coffee table book next year, because I find these old photos of me. Like I actually found one and I put it up and I was on crutches still. And I started playing because somebody gave me a guitar in the hospital. So when I got out, immediately, obviously started playing, practicing, and there's a picture of me on crutches, and I'm looking on the back of the picture, and I'm like, I guess I started playing guitar earlier than I thought, which was true, because in my book I thought I was 15. I was actually 13.
Wow.
I don't think about it, and I never have how long I've been doing it. Sometimes I do, but I I like what I do. I like writing songs, and it doesn't matter who with. I can sit with anybody and write a song. Whether it's a hit, nobody knows that. Whether you put it out there, it's another thing. There's so many songs I have that Ratt's never put out. Hopefully one day we'll release them. And the same with me. I've got hundreds and hundreds of songs just, sitting in tapes, every format of tape you can think of from back then.
Because you've
inch, half inch,
I can't imagine
4-track.
Because you've played a lot, you've seen a lot, and I guess I'm focusing on. I think people forget, because obviously on this podcast theme we talk about the Sunset Strip a lot, and you're kind of one of the. You were there before the Sunset Strip became the Strip, right? Like do you remember it forming?
I moved to LA. Well, I started. I'm from LA, so when I moved to San Diego from LA, which is 1971, and then I got in this wreck in 73, I guess, something like that, 3 or something. Anyway, I know what I was going to tell you. Anyway, so I put this picture out, right? Some fan gave me shit about it.
Okay.
And I told him, I don't know. You want to look at the back of the photo? Pretty much shut the fuck up. But anyway. So I forget, but
what was the photo that they got mad at?
It was of me standing there with a guitar, another guitar I got because I used to grab a guitar. I mean, not too many people know that I play guitar. Not too many people know that I wrote that whole EP. except for You Think You're Tough with Robin, and I just write songs. That's what I do. I don't think of it like it's a chore, or I mean, it's more of a chore getting, my guys to write and record than it is for me. That's why I do what I do. I'm not just going to let these songs, just dissipate or disappear in my head and then think about this riff years from now. I put it down right away on a cassette or whatever if I'm playing. So I'm always writing. It's just what I've done since day one, is write my own songs. Day one, when I learned chords, I started writing my own songs. I learned other songs too, of course, because you had to be a cover band to get a gig or whatever, backyard party or something. So it's all good, So but I forget sometimes, but when I write, it goes wherever it's going to go.
You could be arguably a songwriter first, so I guess that also, that goes along with my thought process. Is if you're a
guitar player first.
Well, yeah, you're playing.
I went up here. I'll answer your question.
Okay.
In 1970, when I moved to San Diego, and I started playing mid 70s, a friend of mine, it's in my book too, kept telling me to see this band in LA called Van Halen, because he was a guitar player too, and I was just starting to get it. And you've got to see this band. You got to see this band. And that was early 78. So I missed their Gazzarri's days and stuff. But he said they're playing the Whiskey. And I finally went and saw him, met Ed. Ed, became friends. And, that's what made me move up to Los Angeles in 1980. Is seeing Van Halen just kicking ass at the Whiskey and knowing they were going to be huge. I knew they were going to blow up.
Can you talk about, since we're on the subject, and I was going to bring that up as well, since you came up around the same time as Van Halen. Can you talk about Eddie Van Halen? I don't know what relationship that you guys have, or just your thoughts on Eddie and unfortunately his passing.
Yeah, well, he was a good friend. I mean, like I say, back in the day when we first met, and it was. I mean, they were often running for, I guess, doing the big clubs for a year or two, 77, 8, before they got their deal. But, I was a guitar guy, and there he was. I met David Lee Roth first, and all I wanted to do was meet Ed, because I knew I was going to sing, but I didn't know in what capacity. So I always played the guitar. So we traded equipment with Ed, and I did, and then I introduced Robin and some friends, and we just became friends, trading gear. That's my being a guitar player first. As far as passing, I think it's terrible. A lot of cohorts musicians have fallen to that, and it's unfortunate. But he's, what can you say that hasn't been said about the man already?
Right.
He did redefine how the electric guitar was going to be played in the 80s forward. Because Van Halen sure introduced a lot of 80s bands to the big rock, I call it. And they called it that, that kind of a group, think big. So Ed is, he was an amazing guy besides a guitar player. I mean, it wasn't all music when we got together. We'd talk about other shit, shoot the shit, But when it came to gear and equipment, it was very cool to know them, to hang and be a part of that. And, believe me, his legacy will live on.
Did you also, I'm assuming you did, experience Quiet Riot coming up in the early?
Oh, yeah.
So can you talk about, can you talk about Frankie, Finale, another legend we lost?
Correct. Yeah, well, that's why what I liked about driving up to LA, I'd see these bands. There was a band called The White that was really good back in the 70s, mid 70s too in LA. There was Quiet Riot. There was Van Halen. There was a ton of them. Venice, a band called Venice, just a ton of bands. And, only a few survived. And I came into the picture later because I moved the band up in 1980, but I knew that's where I had to be. But there were so many bands. Another band called The Orange, which was really good too back in the day. And I got a chance to see all of these guys. But pretty much when I saw Van Halen, that was it. It was like, this is the real shit. Nobody has ever seen this before. It was like Led Zeppelin on teenage steroids or something, just off and running. It was unbelievable. And as everybody found out, a lot of good bands back then. So
for you to experience that, then of course your own success with Ratt shortly after, then in comes that, I don't use it as a negative term. I don't know if you're offended by it, and I guess that's part of the question. It's hair metal.
Hair metal.
I guess I'm sure you've been asked this as well, but if you can just, I don't know your response. Like, does that bother you, that term? Because we talked, you're such a songwriter. I never looked at Ratt as a hair metal band. You were always, out of the cellar, literally.
Right. Well, look, everybody, we knew, Robin and I, when we were creating this thing, our look and image in this, we had to, it was a thought out process. It wasn't like, okay, all we wanted to do was not be like everybody else. Motley, because we were hanging with Motley in the early stages and stuff, and we just didn't want to be. We started out as the leather clad wannabe guys, the metal guys, but the hair metal thing, just call me what you want to call it. I really don't care. Or just pay me, or enjoy it or something. Get something out of it. But I like, back in the day when I moved up here, Mickey Ratt, into Ratt, actually, beginning of Ratt, I called the band Fashion Metal. Okay. And then I called it Stun Rock.
Stun Rock. Okay.
So I'll take the Fashion Metal tag any day over the hair metal, because hair metal, you got long hair. Everybody's come on. It just stuck. But then again, it justifiably, it stuck because once Motley and the Rats and everybody else, set our ground and established ourselves, that's when you had the hair metal dudes, per se. You know what I mean? Every band was looking the same, big hair, big eyes, big makeup, then it became justifiable to say hair metal. It's almost like, well, let me put it this way. what's it supposed to mean, hair metal, first? You know what I mean?
I think people just think of, and again, I don't even think of the big bands. I think of just all the bands that didn't make it, that were documented in Decline of Western Civilization.
Yes, that's how exactly I think, just
right?
like you. Yeah, I think just like that, because I say, when people say that, I go, don't put us in that category. I don't give a shit what you call me, but don't put us in that category of these people, because, we were here first.
Right.
It's like Van Halen and those guys were there first, and then we were pretty much second tier, which became the first in the 80s, early 80s, 82, 81, 83. Once Us Festival happened, forget it. Doors were open,
Then how did you feel? Because it's, again, we're catching up now to almost 2021. We're going to have new music. You're going through another era in a way, because a lot of people look at Guns N' Roses as somebody who helped, usher in a new era of rock. So I guess I'm with this Appetite for Distortion GNR theme. What did you feel about Guns N' Roses coming up? What were your impressions of them?
Well, that's an interesting one too, because I met Steven Adler, Stevie, when they were just starting out clubbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a little after Tracy Guns left the band. But then I ran into Stevie, met him. We became friends, and he was blown away by what I accomplished. I'm like, it's no big deal. Look, you work hard, you get it. And he'd come over all the time. And I remember the day I went and saw him once at the Troubadour, and I was like, okay, they're good. They're good. That's all I could say about them.
All right.
I'm sure they didn't think they were going to be introduced to the world and that big of a deal. But I'd hang out with Stevie and he'd go, man, I just, want to get a record out and this and that. I remember he came over to my house with that cassette, right?
Okay.
Appetite, played it for me. The first thing I said to him is, you guys are going to be fucking huge. And he's like, no, man, no, we got to get to Tuba. You want to go? And I'm thinking, little do you know, I've already been there and done it per se. This was around 1986, 7, I guess they came out. Yeah, around there when I met him. And I just knew it. I knew it. I heard it just the same as Bon Jovi. We knew they were going to break. Poison the same way when they opened up for us. The reason they opened up for us is because Brett was hanging around with me. I kind of became friends. I don't know how, and I went and saw the band, told Robin about them, and we needed a band to open up. And I went, there's something about this band. I don't know what it is, but this guy keeps bugging me to open up a show. And the band's called Poison, and they never did, but they eventually did open up for us in the Invasion tour. Oh no, that was Bon Jovi. The later tour, Dancing Undercover, they did, and they toured with us, and that's how they broke. So it's pretty interesting, we called that one too. We knew there was something going on with that band. But if he didn't harass me as much as he did, have my band open up for you, give us a chance, come on. Well, I did. I went to our guys and said, hey, let this band play a show with us, see what happens. So they did a big show with us, and the rest is history. Put it this way, that tour was Cheap Trick. It was Poison, Cheap Trick, and Ratt.
Wow. By
not even the quarter way through, they were getting a buzz, Poison, and they were out selling Cheap Trick. And Cheap Trick went to us, man, we're going to pull out of here because we can do our own thing. This band's kind of blowing up. We're not going to open up for them. And that's what happened. We moved Poison up in the tier and brought in I don't know, one of these Britney Fox bands or Great White or Lita or somebody, we liked having, one thing about Ratt, which a lot of people don't give us credit for, even the bands who opened up for us, you call it giving them a chance or whatever. They don't even bring it up. It's like, motherfuckers, you wouldn't have a fucking gig, man,
No, I agree with you. I'm all about giving credit where it's due and thanking people who've helped me along the way. No matter where
even
you're
Bon Jovi doesn't like to mention too much, but fans do bring it to their attention. Didn't you open up for them?
That to me, if that would give you credit, that would make me feel like street cred that I opened up for Ratt. If I'm Bon Jovi, who's just so far removed from the rock scene at this point,
And we knew they were going to break too. We knew it too. When we picked bands, we kind of, Robin and I, our manager and agents, we kind of went through this. You got to see this band. You got to see this band, because I was always out on the stuff, always looking at bands, always trying to see what was going on. And I still do. And the last, I don't know how many, last decade, there's been shit that's come out of this town. And even the bands that are happening, I don't think that are that happening, and then when you say rock is dead, all this other crap that's been going on, it makes me think, what, are you serious? Our kind of music, call it classic, call it whatever you want now. I love it. The fact that we've hung out this long, 36 years is, and as dysfunctional as a band we were and still are,
right?
As most rock bands are, success can kill you. And it either does that or it ends your career somehow. Ratt can't be exterminated, no pun intended. So,
right.
So that's that. But it's interesting you bring up the Geico commercial, because it really did do a lot for reintroducing the band to new folks.
I love it, because I want to see more bands that I like in more pop culture references. It's enough of, I see hip hop artists selling McDonald's, Snoop Dogg is in everything. You know, it makes me happy seeing, you know, when like Eddie Money, when you know, a couple years ago, of course, when he did the 2 tickets thing for what was it, hotels.com or something like that. But I like seeing rockers in you know, my TV, on my commercials, because it's like, okay, I'm not the only one. Because
and then, you know, also doing cameos. You know, I mean, I did my fair share of, you know, I did a B movie thing, and I did this, and this wasn't the right time. But the fact that, you know, you can see, I mean, Eddie Money on a TV show guesting on King of Queens, you know.
Yeah, he did a lot.
They come into a bunch of money and they hire him to play a song, 2 Tickets to Paradise, over and over again at their living room. Brilliant, you know, which is, I mean, it's all good. Look, all I am is a defender of the faith. That's all I am. I started this band, created this band. It is what it is what it was. But I've always done different projects and wanted to work on different music. You know, I know what rap music is. I write it. I wrote it. You know, I still do. But when I get into other kinds of music and my guys are going to go, "You're fucking nuts. That's not rap." Well, then I have an outlet for it. And I can be creative, you know, because I'm always writing. I mean, any given time, I'll just go upstairs, plug in the guitar, and push record, and away I go.
Which
Get
is
back to it later.
All you can ask for as a fan, for, you know, their singer to write and want to perform and find ways to put things out. And I know I can't keep you here forever. I wish I could. So I guess on that thought. You know, I mean,
look, some of your own band members don't want to work these days. They don't think they have to write new music. They don't think, you know, you could live off your per se legacy and you can play these cover songs. I mean, play your songs, classic rock, and which it is now. And believe me, it's a very good thing what we've accomplished. But it's nice to have just an outlet just to play. A lot of people, my peers from these 80s things, they don't think they need to do records. They don't think records are important. Some of my own guys, like, you know, I can honestly say my bass player, Juan, doesn't think it's important. But to me, it's like music is always important. It doesn't, records nowadays don't even have to sell 50,000 copies to be top 10. You know,
wow.
A lot of these new bands, which this topic has come up with me many times, a lot of these new bands will never, ever get the opportunity to have a platinum album, let alone a multi-platinum album. And now with everything the way it is, you know, a lot of musicians and bands and stuff should really start appreciating what's really gifted to them and given to them, and keep things creative and moving forward. Otherwise, you get what we got.
Then let me ask you. A
lot of shitty bands that sound the same.
So let me ask you, and you don't have to, and I know you've been, you know,
sure.
You're so honest and nice, but I always give all my guests, like, if you don't want to answer it, say pass, because
sure.
you're touching on what is sensitive to a theme for my listeners, and that's, you know, Guns N' Roses not putting out new music, and we don't, and you're updating fans. You know, we want to get updates from Axl, or, you know, well, Slash and Duff do new stuff. The details about Gino are very few and far in between. So I guess your thoughts on, because you've also dealt with Ratt naming problems. We don't have to get into specifics there. So how do you feel, or what have you thought over the years about when it was Guns N' Roses, Axl, and whether it's Buckethead or Robin Fink, but it wasn't the classic lineup, the one that you met, and then now they can tour. You know, it's the fourth most successful tour of all time. A band that you know, you were along with, and they're not putting out new music. Do you give a thought on that? Again, you could say pass.
Well,
I
can answer that.
Okay.
I can answer that. Yeah. Well, some people are lazy, number one.
Okay.
musicians. They want to live off their laurels, their past successes or whatever. That's all fine and dandy. That's their trip. I live a whole another world. No better, no worse, no more successful or stuck in. So we'll put that out there. But, I find bands that don't want to do that, just, I don't know, not inspiring to even their own selves or their audience. And because I know a lot of bands and people, they just don't think it's important. Like my bass player's not breaking down any, walls trying to get music out with me for Ratt. And I can say it because I'm the one that's having to end up doing a solo record, and the songs sound like Ratt because I know people want to hear new music, and I happen to be the singer guy. But you literally can just be a jukebox, is what you're saying, right? Just going through the motions, and the people still want to,
I want more than that. When you reformed, when you got back with Ratt, the legacy was great, but we want to hear
the people in the band don't matter. After a while, it's just a marquee. It's a proven fact. Okay, unless you're a lead singer guy going out there, or an Ed Van Halen guitar player, or a Buckethead who's amazing. I love him, and all those guys are great. I mean, there's so many great players. But I mean, look, in our band right now, Ratt. Hey, look, I'm honest. You have 2 original guys. And at one time you had 3. At one time you had 5. You had 4. Now it's down to 2. People just want to hear the songs. They just want to hear the songs. That's all they want to do, and maybe see some commotion up there or something. What they hear about you. Well, let's see if he falls off the stage.
Living up to a certain aura, or just living up to your persona, just trying to is he going to be late, or is he going to, act, he's going to show up drunk or something like that. Just trying to
that's you're right. That is an interesting subject, but I just think it's
not holding you back.
A lot of people, like you said, you said you hit the nail on the head when you said Geico commercial. People are discovering us from the Geico commercial. They don't know that the guy's playing in the band, and I'm being honest here. It's my band, They don't know it's no Robin. That's not Robin or Bobby or drummer or Warren. They don't know, unless they're a real mega fan and they want to go. They'll take it as they get it. And there's a lot of people who are like that. They could give a shit if there's 1 guy or 2 guys, but they're hoping the singer's the same.
You're right.
Unless you're an iconic guitar player guy like a Warren DeMartini or a Edge or a Slash or whoever, then it's okay. You're accepted. It's acceptable. But on the other end, I think people, I don't know about some others. I can just speak for myself. I like being updated. I'd like to show that there's still some music out there, that you can still create, and people will like it. It doesn't have. I could give a shit if my records sell 100 or 100 million, as long as it does something for me. And at the end of the day, somebody else likes it. I've had it's great having a success with music and this and that. But eventually, some people, it's a little different. That's not what just matters. To me, that's not all that matters is, I like to keep creating. I like to let people know there's more there. Yes, there's more music in us, But when I can't do it with my band, Ratt, I just go do it on my own, and I'm very comfortable with that, But I get what you're saying, But when you're around that long, like a GNR now, or Ratts or Motleys, you can just play your catalog, and people will love it. Why the need to go into the studio and try to perfect or beat the best record? We never go into a recording a record going, we're going to, sell 50 million this time. You just do the best you can, and that's all you can do.
I think it's inspiring what you're talking about. I think it's inspiring because you're somebody that, and the commercial is showing it. You know, you can rest on your laurels if you want to. You know, you can just tour on that if you want to. But you, as a songwriter, as a guitar player, you're like, okay, that's cool. I'm not ashamed of, the person, the girl that I took to the dance. I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm moving forward. I'm experimenting. I'm still putting out my voice and my feelings out there. And if you like it, great. 100%. If you don't, okay. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but there are far and few because I see it. A lot of people don't. I mean, when you got these other, put it this way, there's, you get into the hair metal, you call it. If you're going to categorize it, those kind of bands, there's still a handful of them that are still creating. Tom Kiefer will put out a record for Cinderella,
he's been on the show.
It ends up being solo. But it's a Cinderella fucking record. And Fred Coy's a real good friend of mine, Sure. And put it this way, any songs that end up on a solo record could have been Ratt songs. I mean, I wrote a couple songs, and specifically, if you look for it, the one I was mentioning to you, go on my side, it's up there. It sounds like Ratt. And if Ratt really put its, pause into the song, it could have really been a Ratt song. And I offered it up, but if you got somebody in the band that does your own band, that's like, no, not right now. Well, all that does is, number one, piss me off. And number two, it makes you want to go be more creative with somebody else,
So what is the immediate? I know we talked about you're coming out with a new solo record and the Legacy album. Are there any? Those are two, we're excited about those. Are there any dates you can give us, or maybe a ballpark when we can expect them?
Well, I'm mid 2021, and I'm also putting out a photo and personal photo storytelling kind of a coffee table book, and I also want to get a lyric book out there. I have so many lyrics of songs that I've never really actually put to on, had recorded. So I'd like some of these things to be seen. So as far as shows, I'm going to be doing something hopefully New Year's Eve. Okay. If it's going to go down on New Year's, you might have to get back to me on that. But yeah, I plan on going out and doing some. I plan on going out and doing some solo shows, getting the record, getting those two records. The Legacy record's easy. The solo record's done. It just needs to go in there, tighten up some lyrics before I get in the studio, and that'll happen sooner than later. And I ride on the road too. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's so many ways to do what you need to do. It boggles my mind when some musicians can't even get their ass shit together to, I don't know. To me, there's no excuse to not do what you were supposed to be doing and what you wanted to do in the first place. Write your own songs and be successful. I don't need a fucking pat on the back. Just,
oh my God, you're. I wish every singer was this easy. This transparent, this easy. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I guess sometimes the mystery adds to it. I guess.
Right. But, I mean, look, I'm being very honest. Look, most rock bands, especially successful, are dysfunctional, and we were no different. And still, probably not even with two guys. But as far as I'm concerned, I have options. And, if I can't get it done here, I'll do it there. And I only do it because it's what I do. It's fulfilling. It's exciting. I want people to hear, something different from me. And then I have another song that I have out there now too. And I'm actually wrote like 3-4 songs and recorded them and put them out there. Not really, out of the cellar style recording records or whatever. But they're great songs, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm going to probably put an EP out called the COVID Tape.
Okay, all right.
because they're just songs that are sitting around that I want people to hear. Why not? You know,
you're right. Why not? Because
why not?
I'll never. It's now embedded in my brain. The recent quote from Brian Johnson that the NDAs and non-disclosure agreements about the new album was turning him into a liar, and he hated it. And it's just like he just wants to put out music just like you. You know, it's so I admire guys like you again who've had success and are just enjoying the process of being an artist going forward. And I'm glad. Obviously, COVID hasn't slowed you down, and I hope it hasn't affected any of your friends or family. Stephen, I mean, I can't thank you enough for your time today, honestly.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. And, you know, anybody wants to see what I'm doing, there's official StephenPearcy.com, and there's also the RattPack.com. You'll see the songs up there, the ones I'm going to put the COVID EP on, songs on, and you know, it's all good. COVID or no COVID. It could be worse. You know, the way I look at it is, and everything actually, which gives me this kind of direction, is you just got to keep thinking it's always worse for somebody else somewhere else, you know.
That's true. It's sad.
So you're very lucky if you can write songs, kick around. But if you choose just to play your old shit, be that character, and people come see you like they do us and whatever, and every other band, that's great too. But I need more than that. I never rest on laurels. I'm nobody special, you know, because hey, I walk my dog just like anybody else, you know. So it's, to me, it's just music. People make too much of this shit, man, you know.
Right on.
But I wish there were better bands out there coming out. There hasn't been in a long time. That's why people are so into, you know, the 80s and for that matter. It was dangerous, colorful, exciting, and way cool, you know. So you can get away with it, and that's okay too, you know.
I agree.
But that's okay too.
The station, one of the stations I work at iHeart, because I'm usually in a studio in Tribeca, New York. I'm in my apartment in Queens right now doing my podcast from home. But yesterday I was filling in for Q104.3 as the morning show producer, and it's a classic rock station, and their numbers keep going up and up and up. And it's for that, what you just said. I mean, there aren't a lot of, it's one of my gripes. I mean, maybe I'm not finding them. It's hard to find new music, new exciting music these days. So that's why
I got to tell you, you shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to do that. And, you know, I mean, look, Priest is doing a record. AC/DC just did one. This COVID don't mean shit. Why should it derail your life and your livelihood and I mean, granted, you can't go out and play, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything else. So that's it for that. But as far as what we do, without losing track of what you were just talking about now, oh shoot! Hit on that again.
Is there anyone like maybe you're listening to now that, or the last decade, that may excite you at all? No, and not out of LA, especially if they're here. I don't see it. But you see, I know what I was going to say. You shouldn't have to look for these bands. You shouldn't have to. They should just be there. And the bands that were getting attention here in LA, a couple of locals, or this other band, that Zeppelin cover band, I don't know what they're called, band Sausage or something. Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah, there you go, Greta Van Sausage. Let me tell you something. People are trying. I mean, the radio is like, oh, this is the next best thing. Then you hear Plant going, yeah, I remember a band recording a record. I remember what did you say about that band? I remember recording the first Zeppelin record.
I know. It sounds too similar. It just does.
I mean, there's nobody out there. And they blow up these bands and they have no longevity, number one. But then again, it's different. There's not as much struggle anymore. Nobody wants to struggle.
That's true.
To get there. They want it. They want the easy way. Nothing's easy, really. You can seem that way. You can be the best guitarist in the world. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
Like, how many years did it take you officially to when you started professionally to make in Ratt? Like when you made it in Ratt?
Yeah, well, a couple high school bands or one. I just sang, but I was a guitar player. And then when I saw Van Halen, I went, I got to just start singing. I can't be playing guitar because I played guitar like Paul Stanley Kiss kind of a thing, 4-piece Mickey Ratt for years. And then I started dropping the Mickey, and that's when I just started singing, and got another guitar player. But what was your question?
How many years? Like, because people want the instant famous, the Insta famous.
Yeah, it was not instant. No,
right.
We had to do a lot of work, but it was. Let's see, I moved to when we moved to LA in 1980. So look, I started playing in bands San Diego 77, 8, 9, 1980. So, God, I hate to say it, I'm old. No.
Well, people. I'm just repurposing your point. Is that people are not going to go out there and suffer if they're not famous in 6 months or something. They're like,
right.
Oh, let me give up. And
that's the problem. That has been the problem with these bands not being successful because they don't give themselves time to learn. You've got to suffer. You've got to work. Nothing's easy. It wasn't easy. Do you know Ratt was one of the last bands? This will blow your mind. Right. Everybody was getting signed in the 80s, 82, 3 at the Elks Festival, per se. Everybody, Great White, this band, that band, that band. Ratt was the last band to be signed from the Strip. And we were wondering, look, we're selling out shows 2 nights. 2 shows a night here. We can't even play any places because the audiences were getting big, and we had no record deal. And it wasn't until, Atlantic, one of the guys said, you got to go out and see this band. And Doug Morse signed us on the spot. He was no dummy, but it didn't happen. It's an interesting tale.
Well, I'm glad that you did keep going. And you're obviously still going into next year, which hasn't happened yet. So,
I'm ready. I'm ready for the game. I'm ready for any game out there, man.
Right on.
I'm like just a fucked up Boy Scout. Way too prepared. Right? Be prepared. I'm way prepared. I love it. I love the struggle. I appreciate the struggling days more than the successful ones. It was too easy, And then for somebody to go, here's a platinum debauchery card. Use it up. I'll give you another one for the next 5 years.
Any chance of a second book? Or you got it all out the first time? Okay. Oh, you are? Okay.
No, I need to because I didn't cover the music part of my career that I wanted to, like the Mickey Ratt family tree, who's been in the band, what we did, because there's been a lot of people that come and gone in my band, that have been in other bands successful,
Okay, cool. That's a lot of things on the way. So that means we hopefully we can do this again. That I get to have you back when all these things are out in circulation, as they say.
Yeah, I was gonna say anytime, brother. And if you can shoot me your size and address, I'll get you out some swag, some solo swag, and
totally
whatever you got going.
Oh wow!
I'll give you one of the solo records. I'll give you a package of a bunch of stuff in there.
Oh, cool! Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time, and as we said, we'll do this again. And
tell your girl I'll get her a photo. I'll put something on there. I'll write something on there.
Like a glossy photo of a screenshot of the Geico commercial signed.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. That Geico commercial was really cool. I mean, we've been in movies, Point Breaks, and this and that, and then Eddie Murphy, this and that. But that commercial was just insane. It was so fun and so cool, and it did a lot for us.
Yeah, clearly
kicked us back into gear.
Thank you, Stephen.
No problem, brother.
There's a lot to unpack there. A lot. I'm going to start to do this, and I can't believe it's the first time I thought about doing this new segment on a podcast where we do an interview that just go so much deeper than we thought. And we kind of have to unpack it a bit. We have to dissect it a little bit, especially things that I say that I kind of, I don't want to belabor the point during the interview because it's about them. It's not about me. So maybe make this my time, my post interview segment in a way. And I just can't believe this, especially given the terrible soundbite it comes along with. How did I never think of doing my monologue before? Monologue. I have a chemical imbalance. I really do appreciate those of you who have tweeted or however you can message me acknowledging the soundbite, just the sound bites in general, or how last episode we had a listener, Matt, on, and he just he said he loved the names of all the segments, so I appreciate it. So that keeps up with our Guns N' Roses theme. So now we have my monologue, and today I kind of wanted to, on this episode, I guess I should specifically say some things that I couldn't help but address with Stephen Pearcy just now. And that was about needing to put out new music and not being held back by anything, not a pandemic, not bandmates, just putting it out. And Stephen is fortunate, and he acknowledges it, that he doesn't need to wait. He is the front man. And while the rest of us know, all the players of the bands that we care about, obviously Guns N' Roses, maybe you're not the biggest Ratt fan in the world. Maybe you're one of those people too. They can say, hey, is Stephen Pearcy a part of it? And you may not know the rest. Maybe you're one of those. So then you fall into, hey, he can go out and just make things. But he has it's cool that he knows, okay, this is going to be Ratt. This is going to be solo. I just can't help it. If you're listening to this podcast, you can't help but think about, of course, the relation to Guns N' Roses. Axl, maybe he could have put out Chinese Democracy under the Axl Rose name, did it solo like Stephen Pearcy. Or the fact that we haven't had new music since 2008, Chinese Democracy. And we keep hearing it. It's more than from, even though I value their opinion, it's more than from Richard Fortus and Dizzy Reed. When you hear the good things are happening from Slash and Duff, it makes you more excited. It perhaps makes you more frustrated, especially now when bands are still releasing new music, and if they're not, they're updating you about it. AC/DC, as I'm putting out this episode, as I'm recording it, are on the cusp of putting out a new album. They have a giant billboard in New York City. And I just think about this whole process. I'm like, what if Guns N' Roses, they do things like this, like with Chinese Democracy, to a degree, I guess. There was a lot of advertisement or advertisement, as I know sometimes they say overseas, for the box set. But there was, and I like seeing whether it's new music or, this really cool box set. I like seeing my favorite band out and about out in the world, rather than just like my little outlet here on podcasts or on forums or on Facebook groups or whatever. I like seeing them out in the world. And it makes me think of being here with you. It really does. That might sound really corny. Now that I really think about it, it does sound really lame and corny, but it's my sincerity. It's my sincerity at all. So that's what my monologue is about. So I wanted to mention something I spoke about on Twitter. And obviously this conversation gets beat to death. What is Axl doing right now? People get so frustrated, and I refuse, unless I get something directly, I refuse to go all in on being angry or hating Axl or Team Brazil, the Guns N' Roses management. I can't. I've never had any response from them. I have to, just like with, honestly, Doug Goldstein. I heard nothing but bad things about him before he came on. Now he's a friend of the show. He's just so nice, and he calls me. It's not like we stay up talking about boys and stuff, like on the phone, braiding each other's hair or whatever. We're both bald, so I don't think that would work. But occasionally he'll just he called me just to BS. And this was a guy I was told shit about. So I always give people, I don't the benefit of the doubt because I want to make my own impression. I try not to do anything like that. So I do that, and that relays into me, why I got into this band, why I related to Axl Rose, is that whatever is perceived from you, whether it's anger, there's reasons for it. I go to therapy for a reason. I suffer from depression for a reason. It could be a multitude of things. It could be, as I joke about at the beginning, but just for making these sound bites, I have a chemical imbalance. Yeah, that makes creativity, but it also makes me really depressed, and I have to go to therapy and take medication and all these other things. So I think about this when I was formulating who my favorite band was. It wasn't like I sat down with a pen and paper. Oh, they need to have a disease and they need to look cool. No, it's just something that when I learned and discovered Guns N' Roses, it's part of what connected, mainly the sound, but falling in, like, I'm sounding cheesy. Just falling for the band, the sound is, I probably spoke about that in the early episodes. With Scott, I'll talk about why getting into this band. So that goes into today. Even though Sebastian Bach has said Axl Rose has like 3 albums worth of Chinese Democracy, even though our buddy band Rick Dunsford has it's not completely his fault, but he's part of the trust that put out leaked material proving to us that GNR material does exist, even though we were not technically supposed to hear it. So we know it's there, so it gets frustrated. But I just think about, I can't help it. It's not an ego thing. It's just, it's a human thing. I can't help but think about, why isn't Axl putting himself out there? But I'm like, wait a minute, why isn't he tweeting? Other than, occasionally about politics and stuff. It's probably it's for the same reason I don't at times. Or why, if I didn't have a podcast, if I wasn't a radio, I probably would be done with social media. People are assholes. People are dicks out there. Look amongst, even though we do have a lot of great bad apples here on the AFD show. There are a few bad apples out there that spoil the whole damn bunch, basically. And why subject yourself to that? We were talking to Steven about, you could just, you could be a touring legacy act. You could do that, rest on your laurels, and look how successful they are. He doesn't need to make new music. He doesn't need to tour. He doesn't need to do any of these things. Who are we? I mean, we're his fans, I guess. I think at this point, whatever money we contribute is going to make a difference to his life, I guess. But I want to make it clear that you can probably sense the frustration from me talking to Steven, where he's just so open and honest about things and doesn't want to wait and wants to get this music out to us. Just think about when we heard Chinese Democracy. They were allegedly vocals from 1999 on an album that came out in 2008. That's the rumor, I believe. I wasn't there, so that's why I never want to say with certainty. But that's the rumor out there. I mean, was it because Axl was held up? Does he have other reasons why he doesn't want to put things out there? I don't know. Until he comes on my show, which he's not, Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, he comes out with a book. We're not going to know. He shows up for concerts now. He's early, if anything. He's back with Slash. This has lasted longer. It took COVID to stop Guns N' Roses. I can't go all in with the hate. Yes, I show frustration, just like there with why I'm doing this monologue. Like during my conversation with Stephen Pearcy, it's like it's so transparent with him, and maybe that's what makes Guns N' Roses Guns N' Roses. They're the mystery, what keeps you wondering, the guessing. It's a love-hate relationship, but that's, well, a lot of our day-to-day relationships are also love-hate. Maybe that's what makes them special. Or are we looking into all of this too deep? I'm sure it's all of the above. And that is my monologue. Monologue. Thank you for listening. And that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. The conversation continues in between episodes. Facebook.com/The AFD Show. Twitter @The AFD Show. Instagram, Appetite for Distortion. YouTube, follow the Appetite for Distortion podcast on YouTube as well. And merch, new shirts, hoodies, stickers, magnets. There's a lot of things available on redbubble.com. Redbubble, it's a very popular site. They do everything for me, shipping and everything. So I get like a very minuscule percentage of it, but it's not about the money. I just want to, after all these years of doing this podcast, people have been asking me, and there are podcasts that don't even have an episode yet to put out merch. It's like, what? Why? So I'd like to thank this new logo designed by T&K Studios, G from Iowa's Life, who made that really cool fan-made Izzy Stradlin documentary, that he made this awesome new logo for me, and it looks great on a T-shirt. So thank you. I'll thank personally right now Jason Bork, who's a diehard listener. He's down in Australia. He said he got it in 2 days. So thank you for buying it, Jason. And even my brother, Logan, bought one. I didn't know that. I actually just got excited. I'm like, oh, somebody bought a sweatshirt. I'm like, yay. And the next thing, my brother sends me a picture with him in a sweatshirt. I'm like, oh, you bought it? I'm like, I would have bought it for you. Hanukkah's coming up, I think, or something like that. So, but thank you, because my family supports my podcast too, which is really, really nice. So the conversation continues on social media. Who will the next guest be? What will you hear? When will you hear it? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it, I don't know, as soon as the word.
The lame ass security, I'm going home.